Hello. Today we're going to be looking at ways to prepare for elbow balance. So I'm just going to give you a few ideas. Let's start on the elbows. And what we're wanting to do in this position is strengthen the muscles here on the shoulder blades, the external rotators, that are going to help to keep our shoulders and arms in the correct position so that we can stay there when we come up into elbow balance. So what's really important here is that you keep completely straight all along from fingertips to elbow, and there's none of that going on. The wrist stays absolutely still, and the movement will then come from the shoulder. If we move the wrist, you won't really feel the shoulder muscles working. So resting on all fours on your elbows, palms facing each other, let the forearm come up off the ground. And as you exhale, let the hands move away from each other. As you breathe in, they come towards each other. Notice what's going on in the shoulder, and especially pay attention to what's happening over the shoulder blades as the hands move outwards. So the forearms are off the ground the whole time. And now keep the hands in the outermost position. As far as you can comfortably go, you'll feel there's a resistance that comes from your own body. Stay there for a few breaths. And then soften, put the palms down and rest into child's pose. Allow everything to soften. The elbows are bent. We're resting onto the knees. We're resting the head. And sensing the breath in the back of the body. So you're really feeling the breath moving into the spaces between the ribs. And then walk the hands towards you and come up to kneeling. Something else we need to be aware of is our ability to free this area, the tricep area, freeing the armpit so that we're able to lift the arms without distorting the whole spine when we do that. So simply to stretch that area, you can bend your right elbow and you'll feel that the hand just drops down somewhere near the upper back. You're not trying to do anything with the hand. And take your other hand and rest it on top of that bent elbow. Guiding the elbow a little closer to your head and gently pressing down at the same time. Just taking a few breaths there. Be aware that you're not wanting to thrust your chest out, so your spine is in its natural position. Breathe. And for some people that's strong, and if you feel that it's quite tight, do it regularly. You're taking the other arm up. Same thing again, gently resting the other hand on top of the elbow, guiding the elbow towards the head. And at the same time, maybe you can think of dropping the weight down into the sitting bones. That should give you more of a sense of length through the spine. Find your breath and then release. And we'll come back to the ground onto our elbows. I do like to take away clothing on my elbows because I feel I can have much better, less slippery contact with the ground. So I'm resting on the whole forearm, my fingers are spreading. We're not trying to overstretch the hands, but they're just resting and opening on the ground. And now we will change our position. So before we had the knees below the hips. Actually, let's start here with the knees below the hips. As you breathe in, become long through the spine. And as you exhale, rounding into an elbow cat. Just doing this a few times. As you sink into the knees and the elbows, the upper spine lifts. Really feel when you're at that lifted point. Feel what has to happen in your shoulders, what has to happen in your upper ribs. So the more we can free the upper spine, the rib cage, the easier it's going to be to do these positions. And then we're tucking the toes under. Bring your knees slightly further forward. Unless you've got very tight hamstrings, then you might want to keep the distance as it was. So settle into the hands, settle into the elbows. Engage the feet. So the toes are tucked under. We sink into the feet. Slowly the knees come away from the ground. And as I continue to drop into the elbows, into the hands, I can unfold. Growing all the way into the tip of the tailbone. And breathing here. So just a few pointers about what it's not, or what might happen to you that might be a challenge. So what we don't want to do here is to collapse back. So that might happen if you're quite flexible, that you'll be sinking and your head will even come all the way to the ground. You know, it's very, very unnecessary. It would be like doing this, jutting the chest out, if we were doing that in kneeling. We want to keep it together, so there's a stability, there is a connectedness in the torso. So you're resting on the forearms again. Something else that can happen if you're quite tight in the upper back or even in the hamstrings, but usually it's to do with the shoulders, is that you feel like you're very far forward and you just cannot take your weight back. So in that case, it can be helpful to bend the knees, and that will allow you to find a little more freedom here. So practice elbow dog or dolphin and get very, very comfortable with that. If you feel that you're not comfortable with that, don't progress further, because your body won't be ready for elbow balance until you have released the upper spine sufficiently, you've strengthened the shoulders, and you've taught the whole body how to practice this in a unified way. So what we also feel here is the sense of the shoulder blades remaining wide, the little finger part of the hand sinking. And then there's a sense of life in the spine. And slowly the shoulders are getting used to bearing more weight, until you'll feel that they're ready to take you up into elbow balance. So something that I also do with elbow balance is, for me personally, when I'm in this position, my hands tend to slide in. Okay, and I like to use a block to prevent that happening and to remind my body to engage the right muscles to keep the arms in place. And it's those muscles we were talking about when we were doing our initial exercise. So here's the block, and I've placed it long ways because I don't want too much of a big gap between my hands. And then I've got the block so that the thumb is coming in. Just come a bit closer. So I've got it like that. So it just fits into the corner of the thumb and the index finger. So before doing this, you will prepare by doing elbow balance against a wall quite a lot until you can balance free without the wall. So having your hands about a hand distance away from the wall, maybe slightly closer, you'll find the right distance that allows you to comfortably kick and find the wall. And then come up into your elbow dog. And an exhalation, unfolding. Sensing your handprints, sensing the support of the elbows for the entire spine. And then bend one knee. Take that foot a bit closer to you, and you can use it to kick the legs up. And if you like, you can then play with taking one leg away, and maybe two. Drawing the front and the back of the body towards each other. If you feel wobbly, the wall is always there. And then this is the final stage when you're ready to do the freestanding pose in the middle of the room. And for me, I think that the block is a bit of a security blanket, but yeah, it does work. So I'm sinking from shoulders to elbows, growing through the spine, unfolding. So it's exactly what we did before. It's our elbow dog. Just going into that as a preparation. And when you feel nice and solid here, you can play with a little kick to take you up. A little gentle kick. And then gradually bring the other leg up to join its partner. And start to get a sense of standing. With the breath, sensing how the hands and arms interact with the ground. And then slowly coming down. I hope that's helpful. It is always a journey learning these poses, and it may take years, but we're not in a hurry. So enjoy every step of the way.